about social driving and the way that people drive after they get their license. If you know this and know the definition of social driving, you will be a safer, smarter driver on the roadways. A few people are here already. Evan is here, Marion is here, and yes, we are doing this on Monday this week because tomorrow is Remembrance Day here in Canada. It's Veterans Day in the United States, and because of that, we're moving the live stream to honor those that have fallen. So a few people here. Marion is here from Vancouver. Sean is here from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. And Elevator Fan tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. Where are you getting snow like everyone else there in Indiana? Gary, Indiana in the north, and Chicago and whatnot. So a few people are getting snow, the first snow of the year, which is the first serious snow of the year. We can talk a little bit about that in terms of social driving as well. In keeping with social driving, I want to talk about one of the polls I put up on the weekend and what it reveals about social driving and why people simply drive and never take a professional training course to improve their skills when they're driving, the reason for that. And we can shed some light on that with a poll about, are you a bad driver if you've experienced a crash? And I've posted this poll before. 80%, 90% of people believe that if you have a crash, you're not a bad driver. It's not an indicator that you're a bad driver. I disagree, and I'm going to explain and make an argument for the fact that people who do have crashes, for the most part, are bad drivers and are not improving their skills. And when they do get into a crash, as some of the comments state, car came out of nowhere, there wasn't anything I can do. I tend to disagree with that statement because it's a little bit like saying I can't afford something. As soon as you say that and put that thinking in your brain that I can't afford something, then you can't afford it. You never change your thinking about that. If you change the question to how do I afford that, then the mind begins to think about the problem and it begins to come up with solutions. It's the same thing with getting into a crash. If you begin to take stock of that, you begin to understand the reasons, get more information, and then you begin to take professional driver training or seek the help of an expert, you are going to become a safer, smarter driver and significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Retired, my friend, hitting a cold blast in Maryland this week. Yeah, and it's not just you. Retired. Illinois, Gary, Indiana, Michigan, they're getting hit with a dump of snow right now. So lots of people experienced their first dose of winter here. Marion, I have a question. Has a law been passed recently that we don't need to stop at stop signs anymore? Either that or I am the target of this week. There's the Minnesota law, Minnesota stop. I can't, it's not coming off my head right now. There's a state in the U.S. that has passed a law that bicycles do not have to stop at stop signs. But for the rest of us, yeah, it's all part and parcel of social driving, and it's the way that people drive after they get their license. Elevator Fan says the lake effect snow from Lake Michigan went really far south in Indiana. Okay, so you are getting some of the snow there as well. My part of Indiana didn't get as much snow as the northern Indiana take effect with the lake effect. Yes, the lake effect. So it usually hits Buffalo, New York because of the lake effect. But in this case, it's Michigan around Detroit, Chicago, Illinois, Wisconsin, Gary, Indiana, which is in the north. Those states are getting hit with their first snowfall. So have a look at the community tab. Have a look at that video there. That will help you out with driving on ice and driving on snow and adjusting your driving for the first snowfall of the winter, because it can take you off guard, especially if you don't have quality tires on your vehicle or you haven't changed over on the snow tires. And I am putting the snow tires on the buggy tomorrow because, as I said previously, live streams of this fall, the tires, the all-season tires on the buggy are bald. They're done. They're right down to the wear bars. They're not completely dangerous for just like bombing around town and whatnot, but I definitely would not take them out on the mountains, and I certainly will not take them through the mountains in early November, going from where I live in the interior of British Columbia over to Calgary. So I am putting the winter tires on tomorrow onto the buggy to make that trip. Elevator fan, I will be driving on the highway on Thursday. I do driving tours once a month. Awesome. That sounds like a really great time, my friend. So, social driving. It is the way that people drive after they get their license. As Marion said, they don't come to a complete stop at stop sign intersections. They speed. They follow too close. They talk on their cell phones. They eat. They drink while they're driving. All these things that are going to distract them and take them away from the driving task, and as well engage in dangerous behavior when they're driving. Corey is here, Bricks for Wheels. My apologies, I forgot to introduce Corey. Corey is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at for more information to the questions you ask, and also keeps the bad people out, which is always good. Evan, adjust your mirror so you can see the sides of your car and parts of the road, and bottom half shows the road, whereas the rear view mirror should show the whole back window. Yes, when you adjust the center mirror in the car, the top of the mirror should be aligned with the top of the rear window, and you should be able to see just a little bit of the side of your head in that center mirror. The wing mirrors, a little bit more discretion, but you should be able to see just a little bit of the side of the car in the wing mirror, and the horizon should be across the center of the mirror when you're driving down the roadways. Now, this is going to be personal preference when you're driving and where you're seated when you're behind the steering wheel. However, you can adjust a little bit to your liking and what you want to see and how much you can see and those types of things. Paul, my friend, 2013, my niece was killed on Salt Spring Island. She was 3 when she was picked up from a school in the car hydroplane driven by her mother. Sorry to hear that. That is tragic, my friend. Very tragic. Evan, blind spot mirrors reduce the size of blind spots. Evan, they do, and they definitely help. Convex mirrors on your side mirrors. You can pick those up at Amazon or any kind of parts store and those types of things. They're definitely helpful, but they do not eliminate the need for shoulder checking. And we're talking about social driving, the hallmarks of social driving, not shoulder checking when changing directions of the vehicle or changing lanes is another hallmark of social driving and what people do. ABS, always be scanning, and that includes shoulder checking when you're changing directions of your vehicle to be looking into your blind areas. You would never pick up a firearm, a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun, and not check to see whether it's loaded. I had a discussion with somebody on, the channel when I said this, and they're like, oh, you never pointed at anything you're not intending to shoot. And they're like, oh, you don't have to check it. I'm sorry, but I disagree. Firearms are something that are not forgiving. They're like power saws. And why wouldn't you double, triple check to make sure that first, A, it's not loaded, and second, you're not pointing at anything you don't want to shoot. So there needs to be safeguards in place. And, I've been working with power tools my whole life. I still have all my fingers because there are certain safeguards that I put in place and procedures and habits that I use when I'm using power tools, when I'm using skill saws, table saws, routers, radial arm saws. Those are gone, but because a lot of people lost fingers and those types of things. However, it's the same thing with driving. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. There are strategies and skills and habits that you need to create and put in place so that you prevent being involved in a crash. The thinking around social driving is that there's nobody there. Why should I do it? Because 98 times out of 100, nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to be there. And I've used this example before that when I pull out of my driveway into the back alleyway, 98 times out of 100, there is nobody in the back alleyway. But still, I need to check. And it is the same thing when moving through intersections, scanning left, center, right, left again, because that's where the traffic is going to come from if somebody is running the red light. Getting T-boned, okay? ABS, always be scanning. And we want to put these habits and skills and strategies in place to prevent ourselves from being in a crash. Not today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, maybe 10 years from now. Those habits and skills that you have developed are going to pull your proverbial bacon out of the fire because you've honed those skills, you've put those skills in place and created them as habits that are going to keep you safe when something goes wrong. And, intersections, ABS, always be scanning, because more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections. It's the same thing with interchanges on the freeway, the interstate. More than 40%, I saw the statistic the other day, more than 40% of crashes happen at interchanges on freeways when they do happen. Elevator fan, yes, you're absolutely right. Policing other drivers. Other drivers are going too slow. They're speeding. We're telling them what we think of them. Policing other drivers' behavior, honking, giving them the finger, telling them number one, incidents of road rage. This is all hallmarks of social driving. Evan, what can you do to stop back a vehicle length from someone in front of you? Evan, I'm not sure about your question, but you just create that habit that when you stop in traffic, you're always able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the roadway. That is your one vehicle length. And you're using that as a landmark when you come to a stop. And you want to create that driving habit that every time you come to a stop, you're one vehicle length back from the traffic in front. Several defensive driving posturing, it's your best defensive posturing, and the number one reason for that is to prevent yourself from getting rear-ended when you're driving and when you're sitting in traffic. We know as traffic safety professionals, statistics say that the number one crash in North America, probably the number one crash in the world, is rear-end crashes because people aren't paying attention, they're traveling too fast for conditions of the roadway, and most important, they're following too close to the vehicle in front. 3 to 4 second following distance when you're driving in traffic. And the way that you measure following distance is the car in front of you goes past a fixed object, light standard, a bridge abutment, whatever, and you start counting when that vehicle goes past that fixed object. 1 rhinosaur, 2 rhinosaur, 3 rhinosaur. You should be going past that same fixed object when you get to 3 rhinosaurs, because that's a 3 second following distance. The reason we use following in time as opposed to distance is owing to the fact that the faster you travel, the greater that distance gets, because speed is relative. It's time over distance, right? How fast are we traveling? 60 miles per hour. So it's, distance over time. I got them mixed up, but that's how you do it. Corey's put up the video on creating space when stopped in traffic to be safe. Thank you for that, Corey. That's awesome. So, yeah, the roads in Salt Spring are quite narrow and windy. My daughter lives on the island, so I know how it is. Yes, and sorry to hear that. Yes, and hydroplaning spinning out. And this is the other issue that no one ever talks about. When these states are getting the first snowfall of the year and they're talking about how many crashes there are and how many accidents there are, nobody ever says, 9 out of 10 of these vehicles had an inspection done on them and the tires are bald. Nobody ever says that. And I can almost guarantee you with a high degree of certainty that 80% of crashes that happen when you have reduced traction, you have bad weather, it's raining heavily, or you get snow or ice on the roadways. If you actually went out and did a poll on these vehicles, I bet you would find that the tires are substandard. They're not M&S rated. They have poor tread on them. They need to be replaced. Because people don't look after their vehicles the way that some do. I would say that about 75% of people do not look after their vehicles in the way that they need to be looked after. Only about 25% of people on the roadway actually look after their vehicles and replace the tires when they need to be replaced. Winter tires, for example, only about 25% of people actually put winter tires on their vehicle in the wintertime. They simply don't put out the cost for putting winter tires on their vehicle. And then they get into a crash and they're like, it happened. I ended up in the ditch because I lost traction. And as I said, it is not a requirement that you put winter tires on your vehicle in the wintertime, but it is a requirement that you have good tread. The tires are in good quality, that they're M&S snow tires, are their M&S all-season tires, all-weather tires, or they have the mountain snowflake symbol on them. So I could guarantee you that most people do not have good tires on their vehicle, and exactly what Marion is saying about, speaking of Vancouver drivers mainly. Yes, it's not just Vancouver drivers, it's everywhere. People are driving around on poor quality tires on their vehicles because they can't afford it. I mean, most people have a car payment, $500 or $600 a month. And then in addition to that, you have to go out and buy winter tires for your vehicle. And a set of winter tires for most vehicles now is excess of $1,200. That's just the tires, not to mention the rims or getting them changed over onto the rims. So if you're taking a set of tires and moving them from one set of rims to another set of rims, you're going to be looking at $150 at least. So you're into $1,500 for a small vehicle. If you're into a pickup truck like a Dodge 1500 or a Ford 150, you're into $2,000 for another set of tires on your vehicle. So most people do not have quality tires on their vehicle, and this is the reason that so many people end up in the ditch. In addition to that, they're not aware of the capabilities of their vehicle, and they're driving far too fast for conditions of the roadway. This is all, again, hallmarks and characteristics of social driving on our roadways. Elevator fan, all season tires are recommended so that you don't have to change your tires. Elevator fan, that is false. That is false, okay? The name is terrible, but they call them all season tires because that's what they want you to think, is that you don't have to change them. They will do in a pinch, okay? The problem with all season tires is that, as I said, they're not in good condition, and they have to be in good condition in order for them to work in compromised traction situations, in heavy rain or in snow or those types of things. If they don't, the bottom of the tire is only about this big. That's actually making contact with the road. And then you put speed in addition to that. All of that is going to make it very dicey for you to control your vehicle and get stopped on compromised traction conditions. And my friend, where to store winter tires when you live in an apartment. A lot of the tire shops now will, I don't know, it's like $30 or $40 a year. They will store the tires for you. Sometimes, family, friends, relatives, anybody that'll store them for you. Or if you have a storage unit in the apartment, you can put them in there as well. Those are some of my suggestions. Usually, like I said, most tire shops will charge you about $30 or $40 for the year to store your winter tires. V, I passed my test last week because of you. Thank you so much. You are most welcome, V. Congratulations on passing your driver's test. What did you do to celebrate your victory in passing your driver's test, my friend? That is awesome. Elevator fan, is social driving one of the causes of phantom traffic jams? Yes, it is, elevator fan, because you're following too close. The lead car in a 20-30 car lineup makes a brake application. The next vehicle brakes, and then it brakes a little bit harder and a little bit harder until you get to the end, and then the last car is coming to a stop. Corey, all seasons are really just 3-season tires, not recommended for winter. Yes, exactly what Corey just said. All weather tires are a better choice for winter time, but the problem with all weather tires or winter tires is that they have a softer rubber compound that stays flexible in the cold weather, and that's why we put all weather and winter tires on your vehicle in the winter time. All season tires, not recommended. They will do you in a pinch, and they will work as long as they have good quality tread on them. But if they don't have good quality tread on them, they're not going to work, and they're definitely not going to work in rain. Tires, when driving in rain, will move out up to 1 gallon of water per second as they're driving in a forward motion, because it comes through the treads, and then the treads act to pump out the water from underneath the tire so that the tire makes contact with the roadway. And the reason you hydroplane is that you're traveling too fast, often for conditions of the roadway, and too much water on the roadway. And in addition to that, traveling too fast, the tire will begin to act like a water ski on top of the water, and it begins to hydroplane. In other places in the world, they call it aquaplaning, which is the same thing. Most of the time when you're hydroplaning and it's raining heavily, if you just take your foot off the accelerator, and it'll slow down, the tires will set back down, and you look in the direction you want to steer the vehicle, and then you reapply the throttle, and oftentimes you're out of danger. It's simply that easy. And again, when it's raining heavily and you're driving on the highway, you're driving on a freeway, do not use cruise control. Keep your foot on the accelerator. That way you can just take your foot off the accelerator, it'll settle back down, and away you go. Because I've had it happen numerous times in the buggy where it begins to hydroplane, and you can hear it, or you can see it on the tachometer, that the engine will rev up because the tires will start to spin because they don't have any traction. And as soon as you hear the engine go, wah! You just let off the throttle, push it back down, reapply it, and away you go again. Paul, what is the cause for your vehicle to hydroplane, even if your tires have good treads? Paul, the reason it will hydroplane is because there's too much water on the roadways, and the tires simply cannot pump out the amount of water underneath, and it begins to act like a water ski and will sit up on top of the water. Now, the reason for it most of the time is that your speed is too high. That's the reason you're going to hydroplane, is because your speed is simply too high, and you need to get the vehicle slowed down so that the tires can do their job and then sit back down on the pavement. Okay? Corey, too much water for the tread to pump out, causing a slick surface, losing traction. Yes, exactly what Corey just wrote there. Thank you for that, Corey. All right, let's get over to the presentation here. We'll get through that. It's about 10 or 12 minutes. We'll come back. We'll spend the remainder of the hour answering your questions. And I want to go through the poll that I put up on the community tab, because it highlights, I believe, the psychology of driving and why so many people are prone to getting in crashes when they're driving. In addition to all the other information that I talked about in terms of the fact that the average person only crashes once every 15 to 17 years, and they go along for a long time thinking that what they're doing is completely safe, when in fact it's not safe. So we're talking about social driving. We're talking about the way that people drive after they get their driver's license. This type of driving is dangerous, and it is why we have so many crashes on our roadways, particularly the United States of America, which has one of the highest crash rates in the world. It has one of the worst traffic safety records, and lots of experts and authorities continue to question this, why the United States of America falls behind everybody else in the world in terms of traffic safety and road deaths and fatalities. So social driving, some of the hallmarks of social driving: driving too fast for conditions of the roadway, speeding, following too close, not coming to a complete stop at stop sign intersections, eating, drinking cell phones, eating, drinking cell phones, eating, drinking cell phones. All these are hallmarks of social driving. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I hauled freight between the United States and Ontario, Canada. Drove buses for Greyhound on one of the regional bus lines while I was living in Australia. And it's kind of funny because I went to the thrift shop and I was looking for a coat, and there was an old winter coat there that had Greyhound on it. It was a Greyhound coat. And I thought, oh, that'll be kind of kitsch, kind of fetch, whatever the kids are saying these days. And I thought I would like the jacket more than I did. I really don't, but it's interesting that, everybody's kind of nostalgic about Greyhound in Canada. And it's obvious that, when I was driving for Greyhound in Australia, you never needed a winter coat, just a sweater and whatnot, but kind of fun. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997, hauled freight, commercial driving instructor in 1997. All of my experience in teaching, most of my experience rather, has been with semi-trucks, buses, logbooks, large vehicles, and all of this information has translated into allowing me to teach passenger vehicles to a higher standard because of the information that I know about bigger vehicles on the roadway. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history. Legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. 2015, I started the online YouTube channel, and it has been wildly more successful than I could have imagined. And if you want to know more about me, you can check that out over at the Smart Drive Test website, the autobiography there. All right, videos to have a look at: 5 defensive driving skills and defensive driving for new drivers who just got their license. And Corey will put up those videos there in the comments. Have a look for those. All right, what is social driving? Social driving is the one thing that unites us as a human race, regardless of politics, creed, religion. Most drivers are going to agree with the statement, I am a good driver. It's not me that needs to change. It's the other person that needs to change, because I've never had a crash. I've been driving for 20 years and I've never had a crash. Therefore, I don't need to change. It's the other person that needs to change. And if you can get past that, and this is what the poll reveals that I'm going to talk about after the presentation, if you can get past that and say to yourself that there are probably skills, abilities, and habits that I can put in place or I can learn, all that is going to make you a safer, smarter driver and reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. And the reason that I come back to this and the reason that I say this again and again and again is because traffic crashes are not like they are on the television. They are not like they are portrayed in Hollywood. You do not stop, get out of the vehicle, and walk away with minor discomfort. It is not the way that it happens. When you are involved in a traffic crash, you are broken. Let me repeat that. You are broken. Okay? Even if you escape with no injuries, you are going to be stiff and sore for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I'm talking about taking a lot of ibuprofen because how much it hurts. All right? Drivers are reactionary and retaliatory. They follow too close because they believe that they are in control, they believe that they have power, and they are reactionary. They are reacting to what is going on in the driving environment instead of creating space around their vehicle, reading traffic patterns, and working to understand the actions of individual road users on the roadway. They stop too close in traffic, and if they get distracted, they rear end the vehicle in front of them. And just one that really bothers me is people driving cars and they're too close to vulnerable road users, too close to pedestrians, too close to kids on scooters, bicycles, all those types of things, motorcycle riders. And there have been a couple incidents this week where people riding motorcycles have kicked the side of cars, and there has been just an enormous road rage incident that has resulted because of that. And all of this is under the umbrella of social driving with road rage. And we talked about road rage a little bit in detail last week, that when you get emotional when you're driving, you become a 4-year-old in 27 lizards. It's your primal brain that takes over, and you cannot get back into a rational mindset where you're going, wait a minute, what am I doing here? This is completely dangerous and somebody's going to get hurt, probably killed. All right, get their itis. Everybody wants to move from point A to point B as quickly as humanly possible when they're driving. And this is the reason that the Titanic sank on the 14th of April in 1912, the most famous marine disaster that ever happened. The Titanic was on its maiden voyage. Ship captains were under immense pressure to make the crossing from England to the United States, New York City, faster and faster. And the captain was pushing the envelope, going fast, and crashed into an iceberg, as we've all seen the movie and we know what happened. So Mayday, Mayday was another one. If you watch the airplane crash series, pilots pushing it through bad weather and then crashing on the runway. All right. Running red lights, speeding, aggressive driving. Get their itis. This is one of the components, one of the subcategories of social driving. Okay. Communication is poor because people are driving nose to tail. Think of it like standing in a line at the grocery store. We don't talk to the person in front because we're not encouraged, because we're not facing them. We're looking at their backside. And when we look at people's backside, we're not... it's not a condition of us engaging a conversation with that person. And there has been some expert theories put forward that when we're driving in traffic, we're looking at the taillights of the car in front of us, and we're not inclined to have good communication with the person in front of you. Not to mention that most people do not signal effectively when they're driving. So it becomes even more important that you have advanced skills where you're able to understand what the vehicle is doing owing to its position on the roadway and its speed relative to other things on the roadway, intersections, driveways, pedestrians, those types of things, and to be able to understand what's going on with that person. Okay? Vehicles following too close, and I believe it was Evan was asking me this about phantom traffic jams where people are following too close and the entire interstate comes to a standstill for no reason at all, because traffic on the interstate is following too close. Misperceptions: too close in queues, getting rear-ended, managing space in front. There are defensive driving models out there that say that you need to leave yourself an out. Most of us live in big cities. It is too congested for us to leave ourselves an out, but you can always control the space in front so that you have a 2 to 4 second following distance in a passenger vehicle. If you're driving a larger vehicle, you need to have more space, but for the most of us, 2 to 4 second following distance minimum If you get into bumper to bumper traffic, you always want to be that one vehicle length back from the car in front of you. And your landmark for that is to be able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the road. Okay, so manage space. This is one of your biggest tools in your defensive driving toolbox and will deal with the problem of social driving. Communication. Drivers fail to communicate effectively. As I just said, signaling. Few drivers signal effectively. You know, they're changing lanes, moving from one lane to another. They'll give you a courtesy flash as they're moving from that one lane into the other lane. They don't signal effectively, and we need to signal effectively. And you need 3 to 8 flashes of your signal when you're changing directions of your vehicle. And the reason I say 3 to 8 flashes is because, again, it's about time. It's relative. 3 flashes minimum. First flash to get the other driver's attention or road user. It might be a pedestrian or a kid on an e-scooter or those types of things. The second flash allows them to identify you, locate you, and the third flash allows them to take some sort of evasive action. Many smart drivers come back to me over the years and say, oh, when I put on my signal and I try to merge into the other lane, drivers will purposely speed up and try and block me. No, they're not blocking you. They're speeding up to get out of your way because, going back to get their-itis, they want to get to their destination as quickly as possible. So they're speeding up to get out of your way. And if they're speeding up to get out of your way, they're actually doing you a favor. So minimum 3 flashes on the signal before you begin to change directions of your vehicle. And if you're moving from one lane to another, leave the signal on until you're completely in the other lane. All right? Unpredictable actions are erratic and without warning, reactionary and retaliatory. If you are driving too slow on a 2-lane road and there is another car behind you and they think that you are driving too slow because you're driving the posted speed limit, they're going to retaliate by following too close. Following too close is another way that we communicate with other traffic, telling them that they're a bonehead, that they're driving too slow, and that they need to speed up. It's not always interpreted that way, and the person in front will retaliate by slowing down and causing the person behind even more grief. And then what happens is you get this road rage incident when one person ramps it up, the next person ramps it up a little bit more, and the next person ramps it up. And then the 4-year-old and the 27 lizards take over, and then the whole thing descends into an emotional hot mess, and people get hurt, car crashes happen, there are injuries, and there are deaths. Reactionary and retaliatory, and to be a smarter, safer driver, you want to move from being reactionary and retaliatory to being predictable and proactive on the roadways. When you are in the realm of social driving and you are not a professional driver, you are policing other drivers, telling them that they're number one, honking your horn, flashing your lights, crowding them, following too close. These are all hallmarks and characteristics of both social driving and being an emotional driver. And I will confess that I sometimes fall victim to this, but for the most part, I try to stay calm, read traffic patterns, manage my space well in front. But like everybody else on the roadway, driving is emotional, and every now and again, I succumb to being emotional and policing other drivers on the roadway. Right of way, following too close, failing to give way, mismanagement of speed and space. These are the 3 top reasons for traffic crashes. Following too close. Rear end crashes are the number 1 crash in North America and probably in the world. The right of way myth, failing to give way. People think, oh, I have the right of way and I get to go. It doesn't matter. If you're moving through an intersection on a green and somebody runs the red light, you're going to be involved in a traffic crash. And it's one of my favorite questions to ask drivers when we're in driver training is, what does a green light mean? And they'll always say, inevitably, it means go. And it's like, no, a green light means go if the way is clear. It doesn't mean go. It doesn't mean that you automatically have the right of way. It's the same thing with emergency vehicles. Think of it in the same light. Emergency vehicles with lights and sirens proceeding down the roadway do not automatically have the right of way. Lights and sirens are a request for the right of way, not automatically get the right of way. So when they proceed through intersections on a red light, they go very slowly and they make sure that traffic, in fact, has come to a stop. It's the same thing what you're doing when you're proceeding through on a green, scanning left, center, right, left again, and then proceeding. And of course, it's, yeah, left, center, right, right? Okay. Okay, good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Paul, manage not just space in front, but manage space by keeping intersections or driveways open when cars are entering or exiting. Yes, do not go into an intersection that you are going to block and you cannot proceed before the traffic light goes red. You need to stay back so that other people can move through the intersection. Not so much for driveways and whatnot, but more so for intersections, Paul. It's just a courtesy if people are at a driveway and they need to get out and those types of things. Yes, certainly we can. Social driving. And then, of course, we are in the I hate cars movement right now. And, there's a traffic engineer. I don't even think he's a traffic engineer. I think he's an urban planner. Works for somebody somewhere in the United States and posts all kinds of garbage on Twitter. And, I wade through all of this stuff, because that's my job. And I have to keep track of what the other side is doing. And if he had it his way, he would just pull up all the roadways and get rid of all the cars and everybody would be cycling and nobody would own a car. And he thinks that traffic calming devices are absolutely awesome, in the neighborhoods and whatnot. And as I said before, they're not traffic calming devices. Yeah, they might slow you down, but they increase urban noise pollution exponentially within these areas of vehicles that are moving through. Retired, what are your top 3 favorite tire brands? I drive a Mazda CX-5. My top favorite brand, retired, is Michelin's. If you can get Michelin's for your CX-5, those are by far my top preferred brand. Other brands, I don't know. You just buy a quality tire. I know that there's Bridgestones, Yokohamas, Firestones. There's all kinds of good tires out there that are not necessarily a brand. But if I have a choice, retired, and I could put them on my vehicle, I'm definitely going to buy Michelin tires. There's one other brand that I can't think of right now. It's generally associated with a racing tire. Maybe Corey can kind of remind me what it is, but it'll come to me here in a second. But Michelin's. Retired, just go on the Michelin website and type in your vehicle and see if they have Michelin tires for it. And if I had a choice that I could still get Michelin's for my vehicle, I would definitely put Michelin's on my vehicle. However, and I'm not being sponsored by Michelin, but that's my choice. Elevator fan, emergency vehicles have control over stoplights in the United States. I have seen them changing stoplights. Elevator fan, they don't have control over the lights, but the lights do change. And the reason, my understanding of this, I would need to fact check this for you, but my understanding is that there is a strobe light on the top of the emergency vehicle. There is a sensor at the traffic light that as the emergency vehicle approaches the traffic light, that strobe light is aimed at the sensor at the traffic lights and causes it to change to a green. That's my understanding of how it works. Maybe somebody could look that up and fact check that for me. But you are absolutely correct, elevator fan, that emergency vehicles do have a mechanism that allows them to change the traffic lights so that they can move through safely and other traffic will come to a stop as they're moving through the intersection. Social driving, this is what we're talking about. This is the problem that you face every day when you're going out on the roadways. And the poll that I put up on the weekend was, does having a traffic crash indicate that you are a bad driver? And most people say that no, it's not. Okay, the significant majority, 80-90% of people believe that having a traffic crash is not an indicator that you are a bad driver. What I see and what I interpret this as, that people are still seeing traffic crashes as accidents. They're not collisions, they're not crashes, they are accidents. And something happened that I could not control. This is what they're seeing them as. Now, we know as traffic safety professionals, insurance companies, and whatnot will all say that 80 to 90% of traffic crashes, Pirellis. I'll come back to traffic crashes and human error in terms of traffic crashes, but retired Pirellis are the other type of tires, but they tend to be more associated with racing and sports cars. So I don't know whether they make a winter tire or not, but that is another brand that I have a little bit of experience with, not a great deal, but Pirellis as well. And as Corey has put up there, Firestone, Goodyears, Bridgestones, these are all good tires, the good tire brands that you can potentially put on your vehicle. But again, as I said, if I have a choice, I'm going to buy Michelin's every time. And the other vehicle, the Audi 2014 with the V6 supercharger in it, it's the sports car, 20-inch low pros. Every time that Tracy put new tires on the Audi, they were Michelin's, and they were incredible sports car tires. So like I said, I've had them on the buggy numerous times until they stopped making the all-season version of the Michelin tires for me. And then I have the winter tires, the Michelin's, and I always regret when I have to go back to the all-season tires for the summer when I take the Michelin winter tires off, because the Michelin winter tires are just amazing. So, Ray, got an automatic fail today on my test, and I just have a question when it comes to yielding to emergency vehicles. Ray, yielding to emergency vehicles, you need to pull over to the closest shoulder as soon as possible and stop. Come to a complete stop. I don't know what happened with the emergency vehicle for you when you were driving. Big, your manual driving guide is very helpful. Thanks. Big, you are most welcome, my friend. So glad we can help out with the manual driving there. Awesome. Marion, I have seen it happen here in Vancouver, Canada as well. It fascinates me. Yes, and that's why. It's because there's a sensor on the emergency vehicle. It's aimed at there's a strobe light on the emergency vehicle aimed at the sensor at the traffic lights, and they do change when they're proceeding towards the intersection. So going back to people viewing traffic crashes as accidents is one of the reasons. It's the psychology of driving about why so many people get into traffic crashes, because they don't see them as something that they can prevent. They see it as something that has happened to them on the roadway. Somebody came out of somewhere and there was no place that I could get out of the way, or I could avoid it. And Marion sent me an email during the week that she had avoided a crash at an intersection by somebody moving through and potentially going to T-bone her, and she accelerated out of the way and was able to avoid being involved in a crash. And sometimes that's what you need to do. You just need to get out of the way of the incoming vehicle or pedestrian or other person there. But it comes back to, there is almost always something that we can do to prevent being involved in a crash. Or if we lose control of our vehicle, we did something wrong. All right. When I spun out there a couple of years ago on ice, I looked at it and I went, I was going too fast. I was driving too fast for conditions of the roadway. Not to mention, I'm almost positive I did not have the winter tires on the vehicle at that time. It was late fall and I hadn't switched over to the winter tires yet. So I knew that, and I took responsibility for that. In the future, I'm going to make sure that I'm going a little bit slower on that section of roadway when ice conditions are questionable. Retired, I do a lot of road trips, and Michelin all climate looks like a good choice. Above average snow is expected in Maryland this winter. Like I said, retired, they're always my choice when it comes to tires. And like I said, I'm not paid by Michelin, but I would love to. It would be awesome. Ray, what was your question about emergency vehicles? Did you have a question, my friend, that we can help you with so that you can be successful the next time you pass your driver's test? Now, just saying that, going back to the driver's test with Ray and not being successful on his driver's test, when you go back, if you go back to the same test center to take your driver's test, you're going to be with a different examiner. It's not likely that you will be with the same examiner. I know some smart drivers will come back and say to me, oh, when I went back and did my test again, I had the same driving examiner. Maybe at a small test center or at a small DMV, But if you're in a DMV that has more than 2 or 3 driving examiners, they will do their best to put you with a different examiner for your next test. They're working to be as objective as possible. They do not want the test to be subjective, all right? So they will, on subsequent tests, will put you with a different driving examiner. Accidents. We need to get past calling car crashes, car collisions, accidents, because as soon as we call them accidents, as soon as we have this mindset that a traffic crash is not a crash, it's an accident, and there wasn't anything that I could do about it, that moves us away from responsibility. And driving is such a it's just an all-encompassing task in our world now that everybody drives, right? And when something goes wrong, we're like, oh my God, something went wrong. And as one driving instructor explained years ago in a video about traffic crashes, it's like your favorite tool in the kitchen or your favorite tool in the garage or whatever your kind of thing is that it just all of a sudden it just starts turning on you and starts whacking you in the head and crushing your skull kind of thing. That's what driving a car is, because for most of us, as I've talked about, it is the second most personal space for most of us when we're in our lives, next to our homes. Our car is our second most personal space, and we are comfortable there. We feel in control. We feel like that we have power. So when that control is taken away from us in the form of a traffic crash, a collision that not only causes property damage, but causes injury or death, we want to explain that away by saying there wasn't anything I could do about it. It was beyond my control, and there wasn't anything I can do about it. Because driving, although it is such a huge aspect of our lives, is also a secondary activity in our lives. Because we're not driving, that's not our sole purpose when we're in the car. We're driving to get groceries. We're driving to pick up the kids from soccer. We're driving to the bottle shop to get a box of beer. It is a secondary activity, and it never comes to the forefront of what we're doing on a daily basis. It's not like I'm driving. I'm just driving. It's not the primary focus. The primary focus is going to get groceries. The primary focus is going to pick the kids up from soccer. It's not the driving. So the two things, that driving is a secondary activity, something to achieve a goal or achieve an end or to get to where we're going, in addition to the psychology of driving, that having a traffic crash does not make us a bad driver, or that a traffic crash isn't a crash at all. It's an accident. And there wasn't anything I could do about it to prevent being involved in that accident. These are the things that will continue to bolster up the number of traffic crashes, the number of traffic injuries, the number of traffic fatalities that we have on our roadways in North America and in Europe and other places in the world. And we're getting better. However, it's not driver education. It's not enforcement. It is not the way that people are driving that is making roads safer. It is automotive engineering. Cars are safer. It is road engineering. Roads are safer. It is medical science. Advances in medical science and medical technology. These are the things that are reducing traffic injuries. These are the things that are reducing the severity of traffic injuries. These are the things that are keeping people alive and reducing the number of fatalities on our roadways. We're still having the same number of crashes. We haven't reduced that at all. So we need to impress upon people that there is something that they can do about a traffic crash. They can analyze it, look at it, get information, and then begin to put in skills, abilities, and habits. 3 to 4 second following distance, stopping back in traffic 1 vehicle length. ABS, always be scanning, shoulder checking, and MIT, mapping intersections and tracking road users. If you can put those skills in place, this is going to have you begin to make the transition from being reactionary and retaliatory to moving to being proactive and predictable on the roadways, and significantly reducing your chances of being involved in a crash. Epic, my friend, in social driving, last minute lane changes are the norm, therefore use the horn when needed. Additionally, if you go with a driving school for a road test, they schedule it for you on a familiar facility. Yes, absolutely. So Epic Two pieces there in terms of lane changes that if somebody's in danger of colliding with you, or you are in danger of a near crash, a near miss, those types of things, use your horn, okay? We react to sound first before we react to light and all those other things. So sound the horn, and that will help you out. Driving schools, if you're going for a driving test, you're working with a driving school, and you pay the money to use their vehicle. You can use their vehicle to go down to the test center and take your driver's test with their vehicle. And if you are doing that and you are taking driving lessons with a driving school, definitely use their car for the driving test, because you don't want to be, weeks and weeks using the driving school car and then have to get into a different vehicle to go down and do your driving test. It's going to significantly reduce your chances of success on road test day. Paul, that's a good point topic, because my big supervisor suffered a freak accident with his hand involved with rolling belt 2 years ago. Yeah, freak accident. Yeah, because there wasn't anything I can do about it. There wasn't any safety procedures, strategies, skills that I could put in place. So therefore, it's a freak accident. And this is how we rationalize pain and suffering in our lives. This is how we deal with it. This is how we cope with it, because there wasn't anything I could do about it. And if there isn't anything that you can do about it, it's easier to deal with, because therefore the onus of responsibility is not on you. It's out there in the amorphous universe that kind of exists beyond our control. This is how we explain pain and suffering in our lives. There wasn't anything I could do about it. Marion, I have Michelin's on my car too, both summers and winters. Marion, you're so lucky. Love Michelin's. They just tremendous handling capabilities, going around corners, and the ride on Michelin's is just really great. I put some Toyos on mine. This is what the tire shop recommended after I couldn't get Michelin's anymore, and I dislike them. They don't handle well. They're rough. They're a rough ride compared to Michelin's. So tomorrow when I put the Michelin winter tires back on the buggy, I'm just like, whoa! I'm just like, I'm gonna be so excited. Yes, put the Michelin's back on the buggy. So yes, we're looking forward to that. All right, social driving. This is one of the things. This is the component of the smarter defensive driving model that other defensive driving models do not talk about. They do not talk about the problem that you are facing when you are driving on the roadway. And this is the exact problem that you are facing. And we face it every day when we're going out there. People following too close, speeding, tailgating, and what are the strategies and skills that we can put in place that will keep us safe on the roadways and significantly reduce our chances of being involved in a crash. And wintertime, we're coming back to wintertime, okay? Have good quality tires on your vehicle. There's a few things, that I will buy and I will kind of bypass on the vehicle and those types of things. I'll buy the crappiest filters I can buy for a cabin filter, or, I'll buy off-brand oil filters for the buggy and those types of things. But there are two things that I will not compromise on the buggy, on any vehicle that I own. I will not compromise on tires, and I will not compromise on windshield wipers. I will spend money on those two things. And, good tires, good windshield wipers is a little bit like garden hose. You want to buy good garden hose because it's one of those things in life that will frustrate you. And tires are the only thing between you and the roadway when you're driving. These tires, and I will say this, will probably save your life. They will increase traction, give you better handling, better control of your vehicle. And when you get into slippery, compromised conditions, heavy rain, snow, ice, these tires are what are going to protect you and help you out so that you get home safely. So spend the money on tires. Do not be these people that do not spend money on tires. I know they're expensive. However, a set of tires is going to last you 5 years. And as Corey rightly pointed out with winter tires, if you get winter tires and you put them on your vehicle, you're going to extend the life of the tires on your vehicle. They're not an added expense. They're just going to extend the life of your all-season tires because you're going to run your all-season tires 6 or 8 months of the year, and then you're going to put the winter tires on. You're going to run them 4 months of the year. So your all-season tires, the life of those is going to extend out. So yes, it's a lot of money up front, but it's still going to even out over the life of your car. So know that in terms of tires. And if you're living in a place that gets snow, put good quality tires on your vehicle and keep yourself and your family safe. So we're talking about social driving. We're talking about traffic crashes. It's the problem that you face every day when you're out on the roadways. It's the way that other people drive after they get their license. They're speeding, they're following too close, not managing space well in front of their vehicle, stopping too close in traffic, not communicating effectively with other drivers on the roadway. They're reactionary. They're hoping on a wing and a prayer that they can get their vehicle stopped in time. And they do this because they believe that they're in control and that they have power. But when something goes wrong and they get in a traffic crash, they now label it as an accident because it allows us to deal with that pain and that trauma of being involved in a traffic crash inside something that up until the traffic crash made us feel safe and was our second most personal space on the roadways. This is how we deal with it. This is what we do. And the number of people that I've seen over the years, and not many people, but a significant number, probably 20-25% of the driving population, after they do get into a traffic crash, will come back to you and say, well, there wasn't anything I could do about it. There wasn't any place that I could go. And it's the same situation as people who are merging out on the freeway and learning how to merge out on the freeway. And they're like, well, I got out on the freeway and then there was a big truck right beside me and I couldn't do anything and I couldn't move over and I had to drive off the end of the on-ramp onto the gravel. No, you made a mistake back before you even started getting onto the freeway because you should have been looking for your space on the freeway and you should have been adjusting your speed on the on-ramp so that you either moved in front of the semi-truck or you moved in behind it. And the golden rule for new drivers is to move in behind the vehicle behind it. So it's the same thing that when you get into a traffic crash, you failed to manage space around your vehicle even before you were in that situation. You cut yourself off. It's the same thing with the zipper merge. When you wait to get right up to the choke point, you've given up your power, you've given up control, and you're hoping on a wing and a prayer that somebody else will let you in, and you no longer have control. And I saw a video, I should have taken this, I should have copied it. Somebody talking about zipper merging. Somebody goes driving past like 2 kilometers of a line of traffic, and then they move in, not at the choke point, but before, and they moved in, and somebody said, oh, that's zipper merging. I'm like, that's not zipper merging. That's just you pushing your way into a line of traffic is what that was. So even people that think they know what zipper merging is, it's not zipper merging. And zipper merging gives up all your control, it gives up all of your space management, and you're hoping on a wing and a prayer that other people are going to let you in, but it is not safe. Okay? So, excuse me. You did something wrong. You didn't have the skills, abilities, and habits in place that potentially could have prevented you being in a crash even before you got there where you did get into the crash. Marrying higher quality of gas here, but it's also way more expensive, so I use a specific gas station that has decent fuel and I have no problems. Awesome. Fuel brands because they have higher quality fuel. Detergents, yes, depending on your fuel, of course. And if you're running anything, talking about fuels, with a turbocharger, a supercharger on it, anything that is ram forcing air into your engine, a sports car, you need to use the top fuel, the premium fuel. Do not use cheap fuel, okay? It doesn't work. You're going to wreck your engine. All right, you need the high-end fuel for the amount of air that you're ram forcing into the engine if you have a turbocharger or a supercharger on your engine, or anything that's been modified and has high compression. So I digress. Social driving, it's the problem you face every day. You need to put in place your defensive driving tools that are going to keep you safe and prevent you from being involved in a crash. Not today, not tomorrow, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, because the average driver crashes once every 15 to 17 years. So too many people go along for years and years and years, nothing happens, and they think that what they're doing is safe and that they're a good driver, when in fact, they're anything but a good driver. Elevator fan, I haven't seen anybody zipper merge in construction zones. Yeah, because most people don't know what it is and most people don't do it, and it's not safe. Paul, that's the same when traveling southbound on the Don Valley Parkway in Toronto. You have to find your space to merge to the right lane to exit Lawrence Ave in Toronto. Yes, and you need to find it first. Look at the spaces between the vehicles when you're merging. Don't look at the vehicles. That will cause you to get into trouble. So good luck, everybody. Know what social driving is. Manage your space well. 2 to 4 second following distance minimum. Stopping back in traffic 1 vehicle length. ABS. Always be scanning, shoulder checking, MIT, mapping intersections and tracking road users, because more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections. Same thing with interstates and freeways. More than 40% of crashes happen at interchanges. Locate and identify the interchanges and watch the traffic and create space. And if there's, if you can, move over into the left lane, go past the interchange, and then move back into the right lane to keep yourself safe. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.